From Newsweek, ladies and gentlemen, I call this winning. Let me explain. This segment right now is for all of you on Thanksgiving. I want you to save this video. I want you to share it or play it only if you are challenged on the issues. Say, I'm going to play this for you. From Newsweek, John Bolton urges FBI to probe Tulsi Gabbard, Matt Gaetz, quote, serious threat. Okay, what does that mean? John Bolton is a neocon. He hates Donald Trump. He is not a Democrat, but he is aligned very much with Democrats in opposition to Donald Trump. He has now actively called for the weaponization of the DOJ against Donald Trump's appointees who are accused of nothing other than being his appointees. I know you'll hear smears about Matt Gaetz and young women. The DOJ dropped those, stating there was no evidence. If you want to bring something up and the DOJ already dropped it, yeah, sorry, not interested in that. By all means, have the conversation. What is Tulsi Gabbard accused of? For what legitimate reason would the FBI probe Matt Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard? None. This is John Bolton saying the DOJ is a tool of the political establishment to go after their political opponents, and that's it. They have been backed into a corner, and they've become so desperate, the only thing they can do now is openly say, this is what we do, this is why we do it. Donald Trump wants to appoint two people they don't like, so he says, use the government as a weapon against them.
They're saying it openly, but that's something that's been the norm for, at least since Lois Lerner and the IRS, the Obama administration sending the IRS after them. So I think that it's probably been the norm since the Obama administration. It was clearly the norm that the DOJ was, even Trump's DOJ was against him, because it's not just who's in charge. It's the upper levels of the bureaucracy. They don't all share the same opinions, but there's enough people in the upper levels of all of the bureaucracies where they will continue to function as if as if they are opposed to anyone that would look to make substantive changes. And I don't think that it's not really a surprise or in question. So it's clear that Donald Trump has a mandate to clean out the vestiges of that the deep state, whatever you want to call it, the entrenched bureaucracy, the blob, clear out the vestiges that are anti-American and that are actually aligned against the American people. They've made it clear that the DOJ considers people that are called quote unquote patriots, people that are constitutionalists, people that would limit the power of the bureaucracy. Yes, clearly parents. They are the enemies. Anyone that would oppose the desires of the blob, you're the bad guy, and they will sick the government on you.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And I think that they viewed Trump as basically like an irritant to be contended with for 4 years. And then once he was out, they could sort of resume the regularly scheduled programming, especially with foreign policy. But Trump is now back in, and he's more or less like campaigning on doing exactly what he did in his first administration in regards to foreign policy, which was actually very successful. I mean, we always say, he didn't start any new wars, and that's true. But he also reduced our presence in the Middle East. He set up the timeline to get us out of Afghanistan. He broke from establishment orthodoxy with the regime change program in Syria, where we were trying to topple Assad's regime. And of course, the media ran with that and said that this is Trump's gift to Moscow because Putin was aligned with the Assad regime and things of that nature. But it is so incredible. And I don't think Trump gets enough credit. It's not enough to say he didn't start any new wars. To get up on a debate stage with Jeb Bush and say, actually, your brother didn't keep us safe. The Twin Towers came down under your brother. He didn't keep us safe. And Jeb Bush, before he says that, if you remember in that debate, I think in maybe February 2016, and he was booed for this, by the way, by the donors and the special interests. People think like, oh, Trump owned them. Everyone loved it. No, he was booed for this at the time because he had mentioned after Jeb Bush said, well, my brother kept us safe because he constructed a national security apparatus. And what did that security apparatus end up doing but targeting the very patriots, like you said, who actually voted the Bush family into power 3 times? And so Trump was able to do away with all of that and break free from it in a way that was just impossible. I mean, if you had said that as any other Republican, it would have been political suicide. And until Trump, your level of Republicanism was measured by like outspoken support for the wars in the Middle East. You had to go along with that.
Trump losing 2020 is the greatest thing we could have ever asked for.
I agree.
That's the enlightened take.
It's true. If he had won in 2020, he'd be sitting around with the likes of Pompeo and other swamp creatures. After 4 years and some time to reflect and some better advisors, and he's asking how he lost the presidency. He's come back in, and you got Pete Hegseth, you've got RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and Matt Gaetz, and the heads exploding. It's just the most beautiful thing imaginable. I can't buy enough champagne. You know, we got a bottle yesterday. I'm thinking maybe we should just get a stock shelf because Trump he's still got what are we looking at? Like 24 more appointments, I think.
Of the heads, yeah, big ones, yeah.
Or is it not? No, wait. Is it? Yeah, I think 24 maybe.
And to your point, there's always one, maybe two people that don't get confirmed. I don't know how likely that is going to be the case this time. As in, I think it's likely that they'll put their foot down about one person and actually be able to prevent it. But there are multiple people that are making the left absolutely lose their mind. Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Matt Gaetz, RFK, they're all making the left absolutely lose their mind. And that says to me, these are the right people for the job.
I think the wild cards are good too because it allows Trump to basically be like, okay, you thought you were going to primary me. You thought I was going to be in prison at this point. I'm back. I've installed loyalists. I've installed my family into the RNC. These are now who I am appointing. And you are either going to side with me and vote yes, or you are going to demonstrate that you are disloyal. You are a disloyal R, and I'm going to have to teach you how to win. And so it's an effective mechanism, I think, for finding out who's going to be loyal to him and who's not, and how that affects his administration.
So everyone's talking about recess appointments. We've got this article from the Daily Wire. This is how recess appointments work and how they could help Trump fill his cabinet. One potential workaround is the president's constitutional authority to adjourn both chambers of Congress. And when they're adjourned, he can appoint in recess. I don't know that he's going to have to do that. I think there's a decent probability he does, but I'd say right now, my estimate is probably 2-1 he doesn't have to do this. I think that from what we've heard so far, Trump cut deals for these appointees. So he's announcing this stuff and people are losing their minds. I'll say this about Matt Gaetz, because we mentioned it yesterday on the members only show. Everyone's acting like this is the apocalypse, all the Democrats, the neocons. I think Trump probably cut a deal with Congress. He says to Mike Johnson, look, Matt Gaetz is headstrong. He's not going to back down, and he's here for his constituents, not for you. If the NRCC?
Yeah.
If they want to continue to function as they have, well, how about we do this? You make sure the Senate confirms Matt Gaetz, he's out of Congress. He's not going to be in your way anymore. And they probably said, okay. They're not really worried about him as an AG. They're all collectively losing their minds. But I see this as the machine actually, they don't like Matt Gaetz in Congress. Now, a lot of them are deeply worried about him being AG because he's going to go after corruption. But most of the political of the mechanism is not super concerned because the game that they're playing is legal. The way they do these donations to the NRCC to fund campaigns, the way they choose who gets funded and who doesn't, that's all legal. They're not worried about that. So I actually think the people Trump is choosing, very likely to go through. There's going to be some hubbub. I don't see Matt Gaetz resigning unless he had some assurances. Matt, however, because of the opposition, maybe this does come down to a recess appointment. But either way, I think Trump is a learned man. I think RFK Jr. was obvious that it was coming, and he just keeps hammering out these individuals that is causing panic in the Beltway. That says to me that Trump is basically, look, there's no way that we're going into this next administration and all of Trump's nominations get kicked back. And Trump has chosen nuclear bombs in Tulsi Gabbard, in Gaetz, in RFK Jr. So either he's going to get his confirmations because he's cut deals already, or recess appointments, and he gets them anyway.
Just on your point about it was the best thing, I think it was great for the American people that Trump did lose in 2020.
Yeah.
Just because they got their butts kicked in. The normies needed a punch in the gut to realize how bad a Democratic-run state a party was for the country. And now,
I hear you, but I'm not a big fan of that. Like, ooh, if something bad happens to you, then you'll learn your lesson.
Well, yeah, but it happened, so
right.
Got a taste of it.
There you go. I can't remember who. Do you guys remember who it was who said that they think sometimes we need terror attacks because then it reminds people, like what the security state does for them? Yeah, Luke Rudkowski would know this. If he's in the chat, he'll probably say. But there was some Republican who was like, sometimes I think we should have them. That way, people will realize what security is there for.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's kind of a crazy thing to say, but there is some truth in that. people vote for Democrats when they think everything's fine, and then Democrats burn it to the ground, and they go, help Republicans, and then the Republicans have to come back in and clean things up. And that's not necessarily completely true. Only right now, I'm saying. And, if you go back to the 2000s, I mean, the Iraq War, Afghanistan was an absolute disaster. But I'm curious your thoughts, John, because Donald Trump using recent appointments it's within his powers, but it's a very, very strong executive action, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's what people would like to see, at least in the base, is some sort of, I hate to use the word balls, but that's what people want. I mean, people lament the first Trump administration. They think it wasn't as fruitful as it should have been, which I understand. And I think that they are aligning themselves such that they should be able to do that. Because, I mean, you look at somebody like RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, these are not like staunch, good old boy type conservatives. They should be able to be installed into these positions. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think he probably should do it. I think it's the right move. And I think that he's effectively assembling this team, whether it's like, Vance, RFK, Elon, all of these different people who are not matching the purity tests of people online necessarily, but who are each in their own way very strongly equipped to be able to dismantle every component of leftist power. Like, you look at how the left maintains power in this country, it's because of things like immigration, it's because of things like elections, because of things like health, because of things like...
Things like elections?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you like elections, right?
I love elections. I'm the biggest election fan ever. But sometimes, with immigration, for example, the way that's like they had to be in charge in 2020 so that Trump's deadline for the amnesty thing could get messed up, or the census having a question on whether or not you are a citizen. They delayed that in the courts. Then finally, by the time it could have passed, the deadline had already passed. And so it was too late. And so that's why it's very important that we're in charge in 2030 for the same reason, because then you have illegal aliens who are residing in these states. Their numbers are inflated. They have more congressional power. They now have more power in terms of the Electoral College.
Let me break this down for everybody. Congressional seats are apportioned based on population size, not citizenship. So if there is an area of this country in California where it's, let's say 1 million illegal immigrants live there. I'm not saying that exists, but let's say there's a congressional seat for that with 0 voters. That's how the system works. It makes no sense. What actually ends up happening is there may be 40 to 50,000 illegal immigrants in many districts in California. That creates extra congressional seats and extra electoral college votes. Now, here's the important thing to understand. Donald Trump is not legally the president-elect. The president-elect happens because we don't operate on a popular vote in this country. He is president-elect when when Congress, when Congress, men and women, count the electoral votes and say the winner is Trump. From that point on January 6th until the 20th, 2 weeks, he is president-elect. Right now, we just call him president-elect because we consider the popular vote to be the deciding factor because it's then the electoral college happens. Functionally, though, he's not. So the important distinction right now is if Democrats allow in, let's say, 1.5 million illegal immigrants, and they bring them to a sanctuary state, that state will get 2 extra congressional seats and 2 extra votes for president. That is cheating.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump needs mass deportations for criminals. Many of these people are going to self-deport. We're already starting to see it. They're cutting off benefits. They're cutting off these welfare programs, and people are starting to leave. That's crazy. There's already videos popping out of New York where people are getting arrested, illegal immigrants. Now they're starting to enforce the law. They've begun arresting shoplifters in Seattle.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like Trump got elected, and they were like, "The game, like we're back. It's time to get back to work." If the Republicans can enact federal citizenship requirements for proof of citizenship requirements and some type of voter ID, that may be it. Democrats are going to lose in 2028.
Yeah,
but they have 18 months.
I should clarify, I'm not anti-election. What I meant by that is exactly as you said, with I think only 2 states that Democrats won in 2024 require photo ID to vote. Like, they benefit when there are very loose election laws and anybody can vote because those people tend to vote more for Democrats because they want free stuff. And like you said, when the free stuff goes away, they tend to leave, they tend to self-deport. And so I think we have like 4 years here to stop the bleeding because there's obviously going to be a counterattack in 2028. They're one amnesty away from permanent control of the federal government because, illegal aliens who are now going to be citizens will vote 80% for Democrats. And so we sort of have like this window of time to cut all of those problems, immigration, election security, things of that nature, so that if a Democrat gets back into office, they can't just undo everything and hit the kill switch and then it's like over for patriots.
Indeed. What do you guys think?
I think, yeah, I love the appointments. What were we talking about again?
If the Republicans do not get a handle on illegal immigration,
Oh yeah.
this is it. I mean, winning this time was very important because if the Republicans didn't win the way they did, then Democrats would enshrine all of this stuff and you'd never have a Republican win again. Now you have the inverse. I don't think Democrats are right now, based on the information we have before us, Democrats cannot win. That's it.
Hopefully.
That being said, they could change, and they probably will. This will create opportunities for them to win. However, as I've stated before, if you come to me and say, Tim, what's a pathway for victory for the Republicans this time around? I'm gonna say, well, here are the things I think are important. I could be wrong. Here's what I think Democrats are going to focus on. Here's how you win. If you come to me right now and say, Tim, can you formulate a plan for Democrats to win in 2028? I'm going to say no. Normally, I'd say, okay, here's a normal scenario. Democrats need to stop pandering to fringe groups. They need to adopt an authentic identity. They're going to need to actually look at what's popular in this country based on polling and adopt those policies. The Democrat Party will have to adapt. So what they could do is they could say, okay, we're going to be moderate. We've got to have some restrictions on abortion. We've got to get rid of the weird woke stuff when it pertains to gender and race. And we're going to go economic populist, slightly left-leaning, make your health care cheaper and more available, protect your Social Security, things like that. We're going to deal with climate change. Classic Democrat. They can't do that. I would not propose it to Democrats because if they abandon their woke element, that's now, 15-20% of their voter base? They'll never win an election again. If they embrace it, the same problem happens. Now, that being said, I think the problem is sort of self-correcting because if you look at AOC's X account, she lost 150,000 followers this month. All of the liberals there's a purge of far leftists. They're all going to Blue Sky.
Yep.
That's the new app that Jack Dorsey was working on. Here's the best part. Remember when the left had their exodus to Threads?
Yes.
And that didn't work.
Yeah.
Now they're having their exodus to Blue Sky, proving the exodus to Threads didn't work. And what's going to happen is default liberals are going to be hanging out on X, and there will be zero influence from the woke because they all ran away screaming. They will isolate themselves, become a fringe party. The Democrat will be forced to adapt, and 4 years is an eternity in politics. We may see something in 2028. I don't think so because they have no backbench. AOC is trying to moderate a little bit, likely not going to work. She could maybe pop up, but the wokeness is it's not good. So I don't see a path for them in 2028 right now. But then again, in a year, in 6 months, something will change and we'll say, we didn't know what we didn't know. And then we'll see how they could maybe have a path to victory.
Yeah, I mean, these people really are true believers. And the people who would be in positions to make those calls, like the swamp elders, they're going to continually lose that fight to the ascendant theater kid class because they're the activist base, they're the grassroots, they have the energy. And they view all of this just to be a vindication of what they believe, which is that, well, we actually are secretly controlled by a white supremacist state, which is why Trump is back in. So we really actually just need to dig our heels in even deeper. And I think they just think it's a numbers game where it's like, okay, we let in 10 million people. We just have to get in the position to amnesty one more time, and then we're good, and it's over. And we're losing 2.5 million baby boomers every year.
Something like that.
Those are our most reliable voters. I mean, Trump won in 2016 by 80,000. I don't know what the exact number is in 24. There's a lot more, but I mean, what's that look like?
Anytime we talk about immigration, I'm compelled to bring this up. The policy that the policy that they're using is the Refugee Resettlement Program. It's run by the HHS. You can go to the HHS website and you can see it. Last time it was updated, it was 2021, I believe, but it's still in use. That is so the argument that they're moving people from the border to purple states in order to turn them blue, that's the goal, and they're doing it on the taxpayer dime. That is all true. You can go to the Department of Health and Human Services website and you can see the policy itself. Like I said, it's called the Refugee Resettlement Program. So whenever they say, people are here for asylum, they want people to come and claim asylum so they can use the Refugee Resettlement Program to move them around.
Yeah.
It's not just, they're coming in illegally. They want people to come in and all they have to do is say, I'm looking for asylum. And it doesn't matter if if they're actually legitimate, which is why they accept anybody from any country, even though an asylum seeker is supposed to stop at the first safe country that they get to. Every single person that comes through Mexico that says, I want to seek asylum, they should have stopped in Mexico because Mexico is a safe country. So they absolutely are lying about who is coming and what they're doing.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.